Did you know that the founder of General Motors purchased a mansion owned by Jacob Rothschild? Hi everyone, Ken here. Hit that subscribe button and let's explore this house. William Durant's path to prominence began far from automobiles and seaside mansions. Born in Boston in 1861, Durant moved as a child to Flint, Michigan, the town that would shape his future. Though he never finished high school, young Billy had a gift for salesmanship and an unbounded drive. In his early 20s, he spotted an opportunity in an unlikely product, a two-wheeled horse-drawn carriage. Durant bought the patent for a new road cart for just $50 and partnered with a fellow Flint businessman, J. Dallas Dort, to manufacture it. Their Flint Road Cart Company, later named Durant Dort Carriage Company, thrived. By aggressively marketing affordable, quality carriages, Durant and Dort reportedly sold 10,000 carts within a few years, plowing the profits back into their venture. Around the turn of the 20th century, Durant had become one of Michigan's most successful young industrialists, a self-made millionaire by 1900. In 1904, a floundering Michigan automaker named Buick desperately needed help. Durant, ever the consummate salesman, took over management of Buick Motor Company and quickly worked his magic. By 1908, Buick had surged to the top of American car sales, even outpacing giants like Ford and Cadillac. Durant saw a chance to build something even bigger. That same year, he set out to create a consolidated automobile empire. Using Buick as the keystone, Durant founded the General Motors Company as a new holding company. His idea was revolutionary. GM would acquire many different automakers and parts suppliers, achieving scale and brand diversity, much like Durant's carriage business had done with the components. He moved with lightning speed, and by 1909, General Motors had swept up 13 car companies and 10 parts manufacturers, including well-known names like Oldsmobile and Cadillac, and ballooned into a capitalization of about $60 million in just its first year. By 1910, a mild economic recession hit auto sales, and GM found itself overextended and short on cash. Durant had been so optimistic that he neglected to build cash reserves or integrate his acquisitions fully. When GM couldn't pay its bills, bankers swooped in to save the company, but on their own terms. Just 2 years after founding GM, Durant was forced to resign control in 1910, a stunning setback for the empire builder. Down but not out, he plotted a comeback almost immediately, and in 1911, Durant teamed up with a Swiss-born race driver and engineer named Louis Chevrolet to start a new car company bearing Chevrolet's name. Before long, the Chevrolet brand was producing popular mid-price cars. Durant bided his time as Chevrolet prospered, and in a masterstroke, he used Chevrolet to regain his lost throne. Over the following years, Durant quietly amassed GM stock and allied with investors like Pierre DuPont. The gambit paid off, and Durant seized back control. In June 1916, he was re-elected president of General Motors, presiding over a stronger, more streamlined GM that now included Chevrolet as a division. During his second tenure leading GM, he continued to expand the company's portfolio, adding companies like Fisher Body and the appliance maker Frigidaire, and implemented more centralized management. By the end of the 1910s, General Motors was on its way to becoming an industry titan, and Durant's personal fortune and fame were greater than ever. Yet fate intervened again. In 1920, amidst a post-World War I economic slump and internal disagreements, Durant's rollercoaster career took another sharp turn. That year, financial pressures and a power struggle with his board led to Durant's second ouster from GM. This time, it was final. He resigned and gave up control of the company he had founded. Still, he exited GM a very wealthy man. At 58 years old, he cashed out his GM stock for tens of millions of dollars and retained an aura of respect as the charismatic entrepreneur who had twice built one of the world's largest corporations. With his fortunes at their peak in 1920, Durant embarked on new ventures and also treated himself to an extravagant new home that reflected his gilded success. Flush with cash and eager to enjoy the fruits of his labor, Durant went house hunting among the enclaves of America's rich, finding his prize on the shores of New Jersey. In 1920, the same year he departed General Motors, Durant purchased an estate called Raymere in the wealthy coastal town of Deal, New Jersey. Deal was known in the early 20th century for its grand summer residences owned by industrialists and financiers, and Raymere was one of its crown jewels. The mansion had been originally built in 1908 for a prominent couple, Jacob and Regina Rothschild, and was designed by architect Albert S. Gottlieb with Florentine design and the likeness of a lavish Italian villa. The surviving floor plans, though a bit rough around the edges, give us a good idea of how the interior spaces were laid out, even if the ink on their labels have been smudged beyond recognition over the years. Thankfully, the photos remain crisp. We'll begin our tour from the stair hall in the center of the house, looking back towards the family entrance off the porte-cochere. This grand corridor was clad floor to ceiling in polished stone with electric chandeliers and sconce lights glistening all the way through. Passing through the opening on the right, we head towards the front of the house to find the men's reception room, finished out with rich wood paneling featuring intricate rosettes and even a large cartouche centered above the fireplace. Nearby, we'll find the white and gold salon, which served as the ladies' reception room, finished out with pale painted wall panels traced with gold leaf accents. Venturing further into the house, we'll pass through the stone hall once again and make our way over to the dining room. When entertaining, the table could be extended with leaves, otherwise, it would be properly set for the family for every meal 3 times per day. Next, we'll head over to the library, where half-height built-in bookshelves skirt the floor below hand-tooled leather walls. Even as William Durant was savoring success at Raymere, he was not done with the auto industry. In fact, upon leaving GM in 1920, he immediately launched a new automobile venture, Durant Motors Inc. in 1921, leveraging his fame and remaining fortune. Initially, Durant Motors showed promise. He marshaled his talents to produce a line of cars under his own name and other brands, aiming to compete head-to-head with General Motors and Ford. The company rolled out models like the Durant 4 and later the Durant 6, and even acquired luxury makes such as Locomobile to round out its offerings. However, cracks soon appeared in Durant's new enterprise, and despite his optimism, Durant Motors never achieved more than a modest share of the market. But Durant's attention was already drifting elsewhere, to the booming stock market. By 1928, he had transformed into one of Wall Street's most aggressive speculators and became known as the leading bull of the late 1920s stock market boom. This phase of wild speculation couldn't last forever, and Durant surely knew it. In the spring of 1929, sensing trouble, he unloaded many of his stock holdings to lock in profits. But when the inevitable crash came in October 1929, Durant, like so many others, was caught off guard by the severity of the collapse. In 1936, he filed for personal bankruptcy, and to satisfy creditors, Ramir, his elegant home and deal, had to be sacrificed as well. Durant had managed to hold on to Ramir through the early years of the Depression, but by 1938, he could no longer afford it. That year, Ramir was sold at auction, furnishings and all, for $111,778, a fraction of its former value. In 1947, at the age of 85, William C Durant passed away in New York City. Fittingly and tragically, the titan who once commanded billions died with his fortune completely gone, his last remaining assets having been used to cover medical bills and basic expenses. As for Raymere, the estate changed hands after the 1938 auction, and it appears that no subsequent owner was able to keep it as a private residence for very long. The late 1930s and 1940s brought wartime austerity and high taxes, and many of the ultra-rich who once summered in Deal were no longer able to staff or sustain such grand properties. Raymere, once filled with life, likely sat largely quiet and empty in the 1940s, a relic of a bygone era. In September 1951, the Arnold Wrecking Company arrived on site and began a 7-week project of demolishing the mansion. In a poetic way, the story of Raymere mirrors William Durant's own. Both enjoyed a period of spectacular splendor, and both fell victim to fortune's whims. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. Let me know your thoughts on Raymere down below in the comments section, and while you're there, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an exciting episode of This House.